obviously there's the obvious theme of greed, right? Because the film opens with a quote from Mahatma Gandhi about need and greed, and that theme is throughout the film, and it's very obvious that theme is staring you in the face. There's also another obvious theme, which is about independence. The country is at the verge of independence from the British. Vinayak gains independence from his mother's oppressive, because she's kind of like, you're not going to do this, you're not going to do that. The mother gains independence from Sarkar and things like that. And there's various motifs that are supporting these obvious themes as well. Of course, there's this gold coin, जो बार-बार आते रहता है. First एनिमेशन सीक्वेंस से लेकर लास्ट सीन तक वो गोल्ड है, आपको याद दिलाने के लिए कि ग्रीड के बारे में बात हो रही है. बारिश के बारे में बताओ मुझे. ऑफ कोर्स तुम्बाड़ इट सेज कि वो प्रकोप बारिश बन के बरस रहा है, एंड यू यूज दैट टू instill a sense of despair and discomfort, actually, right? Or is there more to the rain?
Rain is a motif that I've been learning from, and I think all of us have been fascinated by rain for different reasons. I have my own reasons for my attraction to rain, which you find interpreted very differently in Ship of Theseus. By the way, there are long sequences of rain in Ship, and some of them because of Pankaj's way of looking at rain itself look similar and yet have different meanings in both cases. So rain for me is the horror of abundance, and rain is when everything is green, everything is lush, everything is abundant, and rain is when everyone comes out. Prey and predators alike come out and come out of their hiding, and they are out in the open.
Yeah.
So rain is also fierce competition. That's what brings out the darkest nightmares out of all of us, and it's the lushness of things, which is a constant motif across the film, which is lush consumerist world, a world that is quickly moving towards capitalism, towards
Correct.
consumerism, towards an excess of resources for the few. Also brings out predatorial qualities in everyone, as each one of these people become predator to the other.
Yeah, Rahi very famously in many interviews he has said कि ये फिल्म वो शूट करना ही चाहते थे कि मॉनसून में ही शूट होगी. बट इसके अलावा भी आनंद इतने सारे थीम्स मेरे को रीवॉचिंग पे मिले इस फिल्म में ढूंढ के, एंड आई माइट बी रीचिंग मतलब ज्यादा अपने आप को इंटेलेक्चुअलाइज करने के लिए, बट आई एम गोना डिस्कस सम ऑफ दोस विद यू. ओके, एंड यू टेल मी if I'm on the money. ये एक little known fact है that Mohammed Samad, the kid who plays Pandurang, वो दादी का कैरेक्टर भी उसी बच्चे ने प्ले किया था. Even though इंटरव्यूज में ये बात है, बट ये बात somehow लोगों को ज्यादा पता नहीं है.
Mohammed Samad is a force of nature.
Yeah.
Especially the time that we worked with him, he was just absolutely amazing. And this idea started kind of ringing truer and truer to us that there's so much reading that we'll be hiding. There'll be so much we'll be able to pack into the meaning and the meaning making part of the story if we were to make him play the grandmother. I remember when he was the scene where he's playing the grandmother and young Vinayak has just entered the room. Oh my God, there was a point where he took the glint in his eye, where he took this light in his caught this light in his eye by moving his face in this direction. The awareness, the cognizance he had of cadence, of rhythm, of just transforming into this 400-year-old creature, into this thing that is actually dissolving into the room. She's an organism that is becoming really one with
her environment,
and kind of absorbing the environment into herself. I don't know how he managed to translate some of the most complex meaning that we had aspired to achieve into something that was so simply beautiful, into something that was so simple and intuitive.
And that brings me to this theme of circle of life, which I read into this, because Dadi एक moment में कहती है कि she's telling Vinayak, when a grown-up adult Vinayak has returned, कि मुझे जला दे, ये कर्स मेरे साथ खत्म कर दे, ये मैं लास्ट थी जिसके साथ हस्तर ने ऐसा किया था, don't let this happen to you, burn me, kill me, don't go into that well. But he doesn't listen to her, obviously. And in the end, Pandurang does not take that money from his father and he burns his father. और वो कर्स उसके साथ टूट जाती है, खत्म हो जाती है. I read that as Dadi being reborn as Pandurang. Am I reaching?
I think we didn't want to spell that meaning out on our, like, we didn't want the metaphor to be reduced to a clear meaning, and that's why we did not spell it out. But yes, that's one of the readings, and the other reading is the future of non-predatory life. That for generations now we have been saying that there is enough for everyone, and we don't need to live a violent predatory life. Let's create a world, let's create a future that breaks away from the cycle of predation. And that is really what Pandurang is for me. That is really what that warning is for me. There are two things that are happening here. One is that there is a stealing of resources as it is. There is this great idea, very well known idea in geology and Gaia science, which is that 10,000 years ago, the total human population and all its cattle was a small percentage, 2 or 3% of the entire vertebrate mass. Today, we are 93 or 94% of it. So we have replaced the planet. We have on a small planet, we have replaced life in general by spreading like a virus ourselves, by spreading like the great pandemic ourselves. That has been achieved by human consumption, by consuming so much that there is enough energy that humans have to make more of themselves, to make more of their kind. And since the invention of agriculture, a new sentiment has started countering that. The sentiment of non-predation, the sentiment of non-consumption, the sentiment that let's not consume too much. Christianity started with that. Then it was cleaned up and removed of the bad ideas that religions brought in and kept and became newer ideas of the last 150 years, which was that we don't need to produce so much, and there is a solid state economy, that at the end of the day, the amount of energy that plants capture from the sun is limited. We don't need to consume so much, we do not need to predate so much. So stop the cycle of predation. Again, in a lot of horror films, the idea that if whether the horror of any story is that of patriarchy, of guilt, of sin, of of overconsumption, jealousy, envy that led to revenge, and now the characters are atoning. If you look at horror across the world, these are the themes that you will read into horror. Basically, what we started calling the sins 2,000 years ago, and now in our modern behavioral economics, we've started understanding as not sins, but as actual responsibilities that we have as a species. So for me, these are extremely important themes, and somehow these intuitions already existed. I just had to unpack them.
Right. When you watch a piece of art or you consume a piece of art, it becomes yours. So in my interpretation of Tumbad, in my Tumbad, what Tumbad has become to me and for me, I see this as a completion of I'm convinced Pandurang is Dadi's reincarnation, Punarjanam, Karan Arjun. एक और बहुत ही रीचिंग थीम है मेरे पास कि कैसे ये कर्स ब्रेक हुई. Are you ready for it? I've not heard this theory anywhere. Okay, this is my theory.
Okay.
Vinayak becomes an image of Hastar, है ना?
Right, that's right.
तो वो बन जाता है, वो हस्तर की इमेज बन जाता है, उसकी माँ के साथ भी उसका कंटेंशियस रिलेशनशिप है एकदम हस्तर की तरह.
Absolutely.
सुकेशा, विनायक की जो वाइफ है, now she also is a contributor to the curse breaking and not going on to Pandurang, because Pandurang already has all the money that has come to him from Vinayak. वो हम सीन देखते हैं, उससे तिजोरी में भर के रखा हुआ है. पर सुकेशा ने उसको wheat दिया, उसको खाना दिया. She is the provider of the food that Hastar is hungry for. And now that Pandurang has both the things, the curse is broken, and he doesn't turn into another Vinayak and doesn't turn into another Hastar.
And she gave one more very powerful tool, singular most powerful tool one human can give to another, or a mother can give to a child, and that is perspective. That is insight. When Pandurang comes to Sukesha, about to inherit greed, about to inherit predation, about to inherit his role as a predatory patriarch, and kind of does this trickery with her. He's not the last generation. He's not the generation that is in your face, predatory and aggressive. He's manipulative about it. He's finding his new ways, new meanings of becoming the Sarkar in a new world where Sarkar power itself has changed meaning and changed shape. He has also managed to kind of do that. He's not out for battle. He's doing it in a very subtle, manipulative way everywhere. He's doing that with money, with promise, with future, with manipulation, with emotion. So when Pandurang offers his mother the chocolate coin, she unwraps it and takes a bite of it, and she's blown away because she's eating cocoa for the first time in her life, and it's completely giving her a cake, and she's blown away. First, psychologically or psychologically altering substance that she's having, while her husband, of course, has opium all the time, which we'll come to in a moment. But this is the first substance that she's having that changes things. And she says, wow, this is absolutely infinitely brilliant. She changes, her mood shifts completely. And she says, so is this the reason why? I mean, she almost feels for a second that this is probably good enough a reason to alter your consciousness. Chocolate is alternate your conscious. And he says, no, dad, बाबा को तो किसी चीज का स्वाद ही नहीं रहा.
बाबा को तो कुछ पसंद नहीं है.
And she says, फिर क्यों?
And then Pandurang says, फिर क्यों मतलब क्या? He keeps trying to prod her, but then she doesn't elaborate.
And that, I think, is what he carries. That for me is the singularly most important moment for me. That's what he carries forward.
The pointlessness of mindless consumerism.
Hurling yourself in this race for controlling resources, for being the alpha in a world that is steadily and slowly moving towards abundance, towards equality, towards decentralized policy making. That is going from Sarkar being a feudal landlord, to Sarkar being the British Empire, to Sarkar being an entire faceless decentralized government eventually.
Yeah, correct.
So where the idea of Sarkar, the idea of power, centralized power, is getting more and more decentralized in a world where equality is a promise, in a world where abundance is coming. What is really the point of trying to keep it for yourself?
तो इसके अंदर हमारी एक और थीम कवर हो गई है, the pointlessness of consumerism, mindless consumption of goods that you did not have, and then kind of collecting them and just what's the point of all of this. And I am very proud of myself for also the far-reaching theory of how Sukesha has helped him break the curse by giving him the wheat that Hastar never got. Also, we've touched upon this already now, the three kinds of Sarkars that we see throughout the film. सबसे पहले सरकार जो विनायक के पिताजी हैं, जिनका वो illegitimate बेटा है. दूसरी सरकार आपकी जो ब्रिटिश ट्रेडिंग कंपनी है, ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी. एंड तीसरी सरकार भारत सरकार, जो हमें रियलाइज होता है. We've seen like three rulers. I also want to ask you if you deliberately added in the Oedipus angle to the storytelling, the Oedipus complex angle to the storytelling, because you see that in the really strange, almost relationship of equals that Vinayak has with his mother. It is not a typical mother-son relationship. They seem like they're equals. Then there is Hastar and the Devi. Their relationship is weirdly Oedipus also. Then there's Vinayak and Ranjini, the widow who comes into their life, who Raghav brings in. And I like to believe that Vinayak takes her in, not just because he wants another woman. We've seen him going to all these brothels and there's lots of women around him all the time. But I think he takes her in because she reminds him of his mother. And he gives her all the riches that he couldn't give his mother.
Absolutely. So here's my take on Oedipal themes in general. The idea of Oedipus complex, as recognized by Freud and then later by Jung, are very a very superficial pattern recognition. Again, there is a deeper reality to it, and the deeper reality is the dependency of human adolescent on the mother. There is a profound attachment that the human child has, because the human development period is very, very long, unlike children of other species, other mammals. And that is why this exists in the first place, slightly differently from the reasons that Freud thought that it exists. It's not some kind of an unresolved sexuality. It is the only sexuality that the human child gets introduced to. In this profound dependency towards the mother, in this profound and in this long period of attachment towards the only female in its environment, the human male child experiences profound attachment, love, also the experience of profound dependency, physical dependency, tactile dependency on the mother. So you are right about that. And when we write a genesis of anything, we fall back on two things, right? On one thing that any writer would fall back on, and by genesis I mean the genesis of Hastar and the Purti Ki Devi, which was also, by the way, I mean, I know I'm digressing, I'm opening up too many tabs here, but very quickly I want to speak about that also. That Purti Ki Devi was a take on looking at patterns of mythology across decades and centuries. Every few decades, there is a story of a goddess or a god that is also a representation of the greatest pursuit of the period. So, for example, Santoshi Ma, a Devi that was invented literally in the 70s, which was the biggest desire and pursuit of an entire generation, of the angry man generation, of the generation uh, that had just been introduced to education at scale, that had BA and BCom degrees, but there wasn't enough economics to take care of everyone. There wasn't enough economic movement. There wasn't enough redistribution to take care of everyone, and hence the young man was angry. The young woman was angry after having a degree, and hence the biggest pursuit was santosh, was satisfaction.
Correct.
That is really the extension of Purti Ki Devi of this generation, which is fulfillment. The idea of there being some semblance of resources for the Indian middle class, but still a complete absence of fulfillment, of a sense of fulfillment. So that being the genesis. And when you go to write a genesis of any kind, you fall back on two things. One is you look at the zeitgeist. You look at how where we are in history, in our current world, and you look at patterns across stories, across generations. So the idea of a son being profoundly attached to mother, and attached to the mother to the point of getting his sense of meaning from the mother, getting his sense of sexual meaning from the mother, getting a sense of his desire to proliferate and make more of himself from the mother, through the mother, is an inescapable story. The other story that is inescapable is the prodigal son who wants to be the oppressor, who wants to inherit his true role as an oppressor in life. If you think about Vinayak, he's a complex character and he's a rich and lush character because what he's actually, his struggle, his entire life struggle is to become the next oppressor. He's to inherit his rightful place as the oppressor.
And also in Pandurang, when he goes and gives that gold coin to Ranjini, he doesn't go and give it to a girl on the street saying, when you grow up, I will marry you, or I will buy you, or I will purchase you with all the money that I have.
He's fighting his father. He's fighting He's fighting for resources. He's fighting for meeting resources with the alpha.
And also she's like a mother figure, right? Because she came into the family when he was a baby. She's a mother figure, and he's giving her the coin and saying, "Main tere se shaadi karunga bade hoke." So I thought that was really fantastic. Another.
That is Rahi, by the way. That is all Rahi. I mean, Rahi's world is full of these darknesses and so fascinating. And when I unpack it and kind of create meaning for myself, then it kind of coherently starts having these relationships. But Rahi's intuition draws him always into these areas of profound human darknesses.
The other thing that I noticed going through the film is the Stockholm Syndrome, playing out in various characters in various ways, beginning with the mother, Vinayak's mother, with the Sarkar. She has spent her whole entire life looking for that one mudra. She's oppressed by him. She's not going to get that money. And in the end, she goes and she steals it because he dies. Then Vinayak, who lives under the tyrannical rule of his mother. Stockholm Syndrome. Vinayak's wife, Sukesha, when you see him come back from Tumbad for the first time and he looks like this, overgrown beard and everything, he looks wild. And he attacks her and he sexually attacks her and she starts laughing. Like she begins to enjoy that in that moment. That's really deep and to be unpacked. And then also in the larger scheme of a lot of Indian traders, praising the British rule and saying that the British are great, ye charkhadhari hai jo hamare liye pareshani kar raha hai. Right?
Absolutely.
But let's go into the other lesser observed motifs in the film also, and I have some really quick points here. The Enfante Terrible motif, it's a French word which I don't know how to pronounce, but it's basically children really doing and saying scary or uncomfortable things, and you see that throughout the film. Firstly, beginning with Hastar. Hastar's statue is that of a child. Even though when you finally see the monster, he's childlike perhaps, but it's a grown man's body. But the statue is that of a child. Then Vinayak's true colors you see when he's a child. Pandurang's true colors you see when he's a child. And then the Atiki Gudiya that Vinayak makes also is a child. So talk to me about that motif, about having like children. And I know like a lot of horror movies use children as a trope, but is Tumbad also doing just that?
The trope is basically juxtaposing what we identify as well-intended innocence as the source of, as a potential source of misguided evil, and that is really the biggest story of fear that we tell ourselves. Of course, we tell ourselves stories of predation. We tell ourselves that don't go there. There is a tiger. There is a lion there, and that's how we tell scary stories. But the scarier story is the story of misguided evil. Is the innocent, well-intended young adult who could be completely misguided and have the power of more evil than even grown-ups may have. So again, this is a motive that I've unpacked from Rahi's earlier work, Manja. If you see his short film, there are similar characters in that. That's something that he's always been fascinated by. Now, kind of really one of the key ideas there is to kind of to surprise ourselves to kind of with this warning that we are least expecting, the warning of looking at the place that we are least likely to look into and look at.
And also you see that in Continuum also in your short film. There's so many children, and you'd like, it could go either way.
That is really. I mean, you have just kind of hit the nail at the heart of it, because that's really the synthesis that comes true in Tumbad. There is the kid from Manja, and there are the kids from Continuum, all put together in Tumbad into one kid who is simultaneously all of this. I refuse to accept that a kid can have only one or two of these sides. It's a true synthesis of Rahi's worldview and my worldview. That way.
Continuum भी मूवी पे है guys, प्लीज देख लीजिए जाके. अच्छा, एक और मोटिव जो इतनी लंबी खिंच गई है कॉन्वर्सेशन, भाई साहब पता नहीं कोई देख भी रहा है कि नहीं देख रहा है अभी तक. एक मोटिव जो बार बार तुम्बाड़ में आता है वो है ओपियम, which is fascinating, right? Opium dens were fascinating places unto themselves, but this was also a way of gaining popularity. If you were an Indian back then, if you had then the British would give you, so it's a whole currency, right? Yeah. And Raghav, that character, the moneylender, even in the moment when he's dying inside the womb and Hastar's like kind of ripped his arm away and he's oozing blood away, even in that moment he's thinking about his opium den. You see Vinayak get addicted to opium in many scenes. Even when Raja is talking to him, Vinayak is shivering. In another scene he's ODing, he's high all the time. So why opium so strongly in Tumbad?
Because religion is the opium of the masses.
Aye.
because opium is really the most physical metaphor for every theme that you see in the story, and it's a metaphor that we could use very, very actively, because it was a period when opium trade was at its peak. It was a period when the British was exporting opium from India and China to the rest of the world. So that really allowed us to use this material, use this substance, which of course stands for everything else, which stands for power, which stands for consumption, addiction, which stands for losing yourself, life-wrecking desire to own and to control and to have it all.
It's perfect.
And to the point that it leaves you with no taste, it leaves you with no meaning, it leaves you with no, which is exactly what Sukesha says, that but why? What's the bloody point of any of this?
Yeah, it's perfect. It's the perfect tool to use as a metaphor for all of those things together.
Yeah.
And I wish more people had spoken about it and more people had actually taken cognizance of how much opium there is in the second half of the film.
Yep.
One more thing now, Anand, I'm very proud of this little moment of...
I'll show you something.
Hey?
I'll show you something.
Show? Are you showing me your opium stash?
No, this is the prop from, if you can recognize.
Wait, which one? What am I looking at?
Can you see this?
Yeah, I see a lamp.
That's not the lamp. That's the opium making tool in Tumbad.
Oh, dude. So you stole that from the set? So you're supposed to take that?
A set kind of unravels, right? So there's so many. I mean, I had made so many copies of these, and at the time of and Pooja had made so many of these, and we don't even know like the number of things that are made and get strewn about. Like there is no.
Those chocolate coins, I will take those. No. So when you're watching a film, and especially when you're watching a film that is set in a different period, which is not right now, you're wondering why. You have to justify. The film has to justify why it is set in the period that it is set in. You talk about greed and horror, and your character can go into a cave in 2020 and find the same Hastar living in there. It's immortal, right? Why is the film set? So the film opens in 1918. 1918, as now everybody knows, was the year of the
pandemic.
Spanish flu pandemic. And I was reading this medical journal, BMC, a very well reputed, where you have lots of papers. And the paper said that the focal center of the number of deaths that happened was India, especially the British controlled parts of India. I don't know. I haven't done a whole lot of research into it, and I don't know how factually correct that it is published in BMC. I'm willing to take it as fact.
It's correct. In fact, in the first wave, India was one of the major epicenters, in fact, of the Spanish flu.
So then, is it correct? Is that why Tumbad starts in 1918? Because
that's absolutely correct. Because
people are just dead.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. It's a place that is desolate. That's again this is again the meaning making that we kind of unpacked, which is
Damn.
If you want to create a desolate place, if you want to create a place that is truly devoid of people, how can you justify making a place like that in India? How can you ever justify an Indian village being absolutely bereft, absolutely desolate?
So your cinematic vision is you want to show these plains that are desolate. You want to show a village where there are no people. There's only an old person and a woman and children.
Yes,
there are no young men. There is no.
What has caused the destruction?
Adult. Where are all the men? Where are all the male adults? And then you have to justify it because that's the vision that you have, and that's why you set it in 1918, because you're saying that all the men are dead or they're gone to war.
They've gone to war. 1914. They've all been sent to war.
And the
ones who survived have died of the epidemic.
That is so amazing. Oh my gosh.
In fact, there is a long sequence that didn't make it to the final film that we had written, which began the first good 20-25 minutes of the story began there. Where there is this character who has returned from World War I. This soldier. This Indian soldier fighting with the British, alongside the British, and has gone to war and is kind of is a prisoner of war who has escaped, and who returns to the village and starts working with the Sarkar, with the feudal lord. As soon as he returns, and when he returns, he sees that every last person has either abandoned or died. I
did a lot of research, and
but I'm really glad that I'm really happy, and I'm really glad that you're reading this, because that's really the point of our work. The point of any of the work that we're doing is enriched when thinkers like you and scholars like you unpack every moment, every image, every line, so that the viewing experience is even richer. It also facilitates meaning making in the viewer. So I really appreciate it.
Anand, thinker, scholar, I don't know. I just love stories very much. And I think Tumbad is one of the finest
Which is the job of a thinker or a scholar. That's what do you think a scholar is? The scholar is just that.
But now, to end this conversation, I have a few unanswered questions which I have not been able to find answers to in all my thinking. Number one, why did Sadashiv have to die? Vinayak's younger brother. Why did he have to die in the beginning of the film? Is that just used as a plot point in the film to change course?
Well, there had to be a very, very good reason for them to pack and leave right there. There had to be no reason to stay in that place a second longer, because what made Vinayak take so many years before he came back. So we did need a very good reason, a reason where horror has reached home. And there is this moment of premonition where she's cooking in the kitchen, and she feels the wind rustle the leaves, and she feels the horror incoming. That was number one. Secondly, there was no reason why Vinayak would be alone at home. I mean, there had to be a very good reason why the mother would leave Vinayak when she was clearly aware she had inherited the horror, and she was nursing the horror literally.
Yeah. Okay. So that's that. Why does Vinayak have green eyes? Is it just to say that?
No, that's Rahi's nuance. That's Rahi's detail. He was obsessed with keeping green eyes in the story, which is
he's cunning and greedy. Is that
no. It's a geographical genetic nuance.
Wow. That's pretty cool. All right, last question I have unanswered is why are we shown that Vinayak has twin daughters, and then they're never in the film ever again. They're never spoken about.
I know. Twins are spooky. Twins are spooky.
Sure.
Like there's something in a world which is like full of variation, where every individual has a fingerprint that's unlike every other individual. Every individual has an iris that's unlike any other individual. Stunningly magical, animally, of identical twins. It's just so animalist that it's again a trope that we've found again and again in the horror films.
In horror films, over and over again. Yeah, because on my third viewing, I was like, "अरे हाँ, इसकी तो बेटियां भी हैं दो." तो मैं बोल ही गई थी.
Have you seen Shasn? By the way, the Shasn trailer.
I've played Shasn also, and
But
I've
have you
seen the trailer.
that György Pálfi made?
Yeah. Very cinematic.
Yeah. So the director of Shasn, György Pálfi, a very dear friend of ours again, who directed the trailer for us, and who's just a brilliant auteur of Hungarian cinema. If you haven't seen Taxidermy, I strongly recommend that you watch it. It's one of the finest pieces of contemporary horror cinema and body horror cinema there ever has been, in fact. And he's the one who made that Shasn trailer. And the reason I bring it up right now is because that he also, independent of our script or our other tropes or other ideas that we've used in our stories, independently, he's also put twins in Shasn trailer.
See, now I have to go back and watch. That is the only thing of yours that I have not revisited in the last 3 days. I think the trailer of Shasn. Baki sab maine dekh liya hai. But listen, speaking of Shasn, okay, so these are all the questions I had about Tumbad, and thank you so much for indulging me and all my.
No, thank you for indulging me.
Stories. So many fan theories and so many different things that I wanted to chat about, and nobody's talked about any of this stuff about Tumbad. Shasn also. Now, Shasn is the board game. I'm very quickly. Shasn is the board game that you worked on. You did a very successful Kickstarter campaign for it. It's a political board game. I've played it. It's really amazing. It's very long and very intense. When is it available for retail?
Like every other project of ours.
Very long and very intense. But when can people actually buy it? When can people start playing Shasn?
It's been up for sale for a while now. So the Kickstarter sales did incredibly well, like Now it's out in retail in a month's time. We start shipping in a month's time now.
Okay, so shipping is beginning in 1 month.
But it's already been played world over. There have been tournaments. There has been India's first national tournament also happened of Shasn just a few months before the lockdown.
Wow.
And went really, really well. We have our first national Shasn champion who's holding his trophy and waiting for somebody to come and claim it.
Well, listen, Anand, thank you so much for this whole chat. 1.5 घंटे से हम बकर कर रहे हैं, and I hope people watch it because there is so much great stuff that we've spoken about.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anybody.
It's absolutely fantastic to be able to visit all of this. Yeah.
Hannah, isn't it fun? Isn't it fun to just have a nice fun chat about Tumbad where, okay, we've all heard the stories about how it took years and years to make and about how we were waiting for the rains and how the sets had to be created again and again. But like really going into the story and going into the thematic approach behind writing the film is what I really wanted to chat with you about today. So
the writing is only one part of it, but how do you...
Correct.
Like I said, that the key role that I played as a creative director was to kind of translate what is written into guiding everyone into being able to talk to each other, into being able to kind of manifest every intention, every idea into image and form and into behavior, into texture.
Thank you, Anand. You're amazing. Thanks for chatting with me, man.
Thank you so much, Sucharita. Bye bye. Take care.